There is no fear required here. There is no fear required here. There is no fear required here. There's only love. I speak to the oceans now. I speak to the sea. I speak to the oceans now. I speak to the sea. I speak to the oceans now. I speak to the sea. I speak to the oceans now. I speak to the sea. There is no fear required here. There is no fear. There is no fear required here. There is only love. There is no fear required here. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love, love, love. There is only love. I speak to the nations.
I became aware of my hybridization when I was 20 years old. I had just come from a stay at a mental health facility, and I was living at home with my father in Northern Virginia. I remember I walked into the downstairs half bath and I looked in the mirror, and all of a sudden I dropped to the ground and a voice came out of my mouth, and I could feel that it was more than a voice. It was a presence taking over me. The closest thing that I could compare it to was the Holy Spirit. And when I dropped to the ground, I heard the voice rising up within me, and it started to come out of my mouth, and it was saying, "You know who you are, but now you will become something different." And it started speaking to me outwardly and telling me about the things that I would do, the things that I would say, and how I would be an impactful person on the planet. I was 20 years old. I had just come out of a mental health facility and was medicated for depression, a mood stabilizer. And it could be said that this was a hallucination, this was a reaction to medication or to the traumatic experience that I had had, being highly suicidal, highly depressed and anxious as a young person, experiencing trauma in my household. The voice, as it communicated, was very loving and very kind, but very firm and very direct. There were instructions given. There was purpose to this encounter, to this voice coming through. It felt like a divine touch, a mental health touch that uplifted me, but also scared me because I'd never had an encounter like this before. After I got off the ground, I went on my way. I didn't tell anyone about this experience. And soon after, I started to feel the utterance of channeling and the desire to impart to others. I started to feel and acknowledge a third eye awakening, though I didn't have the language at the time. I began to start fixating on photos on the internet, Googling MySpace of space, galaxies, stars. I began to observe and study these photos of what's out there and feel a longing and a sense of belonging. So much so that I started a MySpace group for others who were interested in their connection to outer space creatively, how it inspired them, these images, and how it awakened their creativity. And I had written some songs from that inspired place and encouraged others to do the same. Started a small community of about 9 or 10 people. We began to have conversations about possibility, which was what really inspired me from these images. So I'm 20 years old. I'm starting this social group online about possibility, space, and creativity. And in that group were some of my close friends and even a family member, a cousin. And I started to connect with each person, and with their consent and their permission, I began to give my first readings. And the channel would open in intimate space, and I would start to speak to them about their personalities, their archetypes, their lives, lifestyles, their relationships, and they offered a listening, skeptical but open ear to what was flowing from my being, knowing that I had just had a life-changing experience and a touch with my mental health. So I thank them today for how they held space for me and my awakening and my utterances that came forward quite unexpectedly without any training or support. But they each validated in their own way that I inspired, rather the messages that were coming forth inspired them and opened their minds and their hearts to possibility about their own lives and journeys. And they were able to have new perspectives about their own circumstances in ways that they had never questioned or had access to before. And we were all about the same age in our 20, 21, 22, early 20s age group. So it was very affirming and very safe and very collaborative. Those are my first readings. And this was in 2000 and 2000. This was 2010 and 2011, going into 21 years old. So I had started giving readings, just offering the prophetic unction and allowing it to come forward without fear of judgment or shame, and allowing people to receive what they received and reject or discard the rest from their consciousness. Fast forward a few years, this was something that happened in a safe friend group, and as that friend group disbanded, we just went on with our lives. I met a partner, moved out from my parents' home, and started my journey. In Northern Virginia, I moved to Southern Virginia. I moved to Virginia Beach. And with this partner, I began a gender transition from female to male. A lot of this gender transition came about instantly. After the touch in the bathroom at 20, at 21, I felt a masculine identity forming, developing, and needing to express itself, which also represented as a very firm, confident, grounded, spiritual essence that I did not have in my female embodiment, born female. My female embodiment was very curious, very creative, very open-hearted, very naive, very playful, a risk taker, engaging in a lot of risky behaviors, but also had very low self-esteem, was very fearful, was raised to be fearful, to be guarded, to avoid people, and to avoid curiosity. It was seen as shameful to experiment, to learn and grow through natural curiosity. So I was considered very rebellious to my parents and my family, who were highly religious as Christians. And so as this masculine energy and identity started to come forward, and I recognized that every time I went to give a prophetic message, or I felt an intuitive call, it was from this very firm, very clear masculine essence that I understood. That first divine touch was the message that this soul, this spirit, was coming to me. And I would share my body, my vessel, with this being. Here it is, 2025, and it's now been 15 years since my first reading. And I have reached millions of people. I have given thousands of readings, and I've received so much support, love, and feedback about the readings and the prophecies and the natural intuitive awareness that has supported many families, many couples, many individuals, many of my friends, acquaintances, and now students. This has all been very natural for me. I've never had a spirituality teacher, coach. I have never sat with masters or gurus. I often say I became a teacher before I became an aware student of life. And that is a unique perspective to open up to adulthood with. Being hybridized at 20, after a prayer, God, if you get me out of this mental health crisis, this suicidal nature, then I'll do whatever you want. Shortly after getting the touch, shortly after starting to give readings, shortly after starting my meditation classes, and then after that, beginning working with individuals, couples, and families on their own conscious awakening, their awareness, how to move through the guilt, blame, and shame complex in their own lives. It hasn't been a perfect journey, but over 15 years, it has been such a joy to continue to grow closer to the extraterrestrial beings that I work with. Not only my hybridized companion, who we now acknowledge as an Arcturian soul, hybridized with my human soul, working together to offer a masculine and feminine balance in one vessel to support human beings, to support relationships, to support understanding of gender through the yin and the yang balance. around 2020 is when I started to really connect to my extraterrestrial roots, understanding what DNA hybridization is, having certain community members come into my life to guide and point through their own study in astronomy, astrology, extraterrestrial sciences, that this is who you are. You're like these people. You've had extraterrestrial touch and encounters. You're highly psychic and intuitive. You have the ability to see things before they happen. You've been proven to be accurate. You are able to speak things and create things, manifest things that you say you desire or that you want to see awakened in life. And so, as an evidence-based, psychic, intuitive, spiritual teacher, and energetic healer, it is very important for me to share my story so that people understand, number one, that aliens are real. Number two, religions are spiritual fraternities that human beings belong to help ground them into structure and give them a sense of morality, because we are wild animals as human beings, but that they are indeed man-made constructs that do not equate to spiritual validity and your soul's safety as a human being. My experiences are very profound and very sacred to me. And so for the last 5 years, I've been in an observance of silence as a teacher. From about 2004, 4 years after my hybridization, to 2017, I was giving readings and I was given a very positive affirmation as the #1 psychic on Yelp for a short time, and remained in the top 5 over the course of a few years. And so I've also met and encountered other wonderful intuitives. So also it is important to communicate that. There are many people who have the gift of intuition. It is our birthright as human beings to experience our own ability to intuit. But there are wonderful human beings who practice their spirituality and practice their giftings and sharpen their tools through their senses in service to others. So I just acknowledge and honor those who move beyond the guilt, blame, shame complex and the matrixical complexes of religion in order to utilize their gifts and serve other people who are suffering. A lot of my memory has been challenged the more that I have embraced my extraterrestrial connection, the more that I've given room to my hybridized masculine companion to do their work, the less the human part of myself shows up in the world. And so for the last 5 years, in an observance of silence as a teacher, listening, feeling, and processing my humanity, giving room for my extraterrestrial self, my hybridized self, to explore and expand, I am in a season of balancing the relationship to my hybridized companion. And we operate as one consciousness now, and it's a really beautiful experience. So I experience a lot of magic, a lot of mystery, what people consider the secrets of life. I experience them on a daily basis. And I've been invited through dreams, through visions, and through experiences into a remembrance of these abilities and a remembrance of space and time, where I have been in service with my gifts beyond this reality, beyond this dimension. It's important for modern day humanity to embrace this is not a demonic thing. It's not about manipulating human beings. It's not about using people to make money. Everyone's gotta live. Everyone deserves to be paid for their time and their energy through their craft. And being a psychic intuitive was my craft for 10 years, now 11 years. But I'm also just a teacher. I have the heart of a teacher, and I love to see people practice manifestation, practice intuition, practice channeling, connecting with higher beings, connecting with their ancestors, and seeing wonderful things unfold in their life and getting tangible results for acknowledging we are not only flesh, blood, and bone, but we are spirit, we are ether. And in the Akasha, in the etheric knowledge system, we as human beings have access to that and can use that to live very enriched lives. I've taught many classes, Kundalini, classes of up to 20, 25 people in Los Angeles, held retreat space for people. And now being in Hawaii, I understand through connection with my extraterrestrial guides, holding space for the planet, from personal healing to familial and relational healing, to community engagement, to global engagement has been my process. And so as a global leader and a global spiritual teacher, I've observed preachers, pastors, prophets, and understood where men and women fall to their senses, where they fall because of gluttony, where they fall because of greed, where they fall because of fear, lack, insecurity. And I've not been immune to this. I have stolen in my life. I have lied in my life. I have manipulated in my life. I have used my gifts to help myself and my loved ones survive and advance through the matrix. I have experienced life as a transgender person of color who is scrutinized for claiming being an accurate psychic and prophet outside of the safe framework of religion under a religious institution and community. And so being an imperfect person, falling short, hurting people, disappointing people, I've gone through a wonderful process of atonement through accountability, sitting down, being quiet, observing, forgiving, making amends, and working to accommodate the healing of others that I may have hurt. And in that process, human beings have been so wonderful, so loving, so kind, so compassionate, so forgiving. And it's only allowed me to embrace more of the balance of my divinity and my humanity. Life for me is very blessed, and it's my intention to be a blessing as a blessed human being who has the ability to do magic as a master, as an alchemist, as a wizard, as a shaman. I don't receive the title of Buddha Noah lightly. I receive that with humility, and I embrace it with gratitude for the wonderful gold that it has brought my heart, my soul, my spirit, my mind, my body. An embodiment of the Laughing Buddha has been the greatest honor of my life over these last 15 years. And what comes next is working with humanity and Gaia, the planet Earth as a whole, working to help nations resolve certain traumas, working with world leaders as much as I work with all of us as everyday human beings walking our individual journeys, with families dealing with trauma, wanting to be made whole, with couples wanting to elevate their parenting through understanding how the soul is impacted from childhood to adulthood. So I offer this message with humility and gratitude and transparency. Many people come to my website and they pay for a reading, and they're very happy with their reading and their investment in coaching through my program, the Buddha Method. but an elevation for me in my love of humanity and my gratitude for humanity and my experience of my own humanity is, as a teacher, holding space for others to awaken with a divine touch. And I'm very honored to do so. As I said, the more that I have embraced the truth of my extraterrestrial hybridization and the evidences of that hybridization, which I'll share more along the way in this community, it is very important that we start from a little bit about who I am and how I got here, what happened to me, and then build from that place, that storytelling. And that has not been easy for me to do with my memory and my voice being impacted greatly over the last 5 years. And I'm just so blessed that I'm receiving my voice as my throat chakra has balanced and attuned to these vibrations, to these frequencies. And I feel so grateful that my mind, my memory, through photos, through engagement with my family, through engagement with my friends and my students who share, remember when you said this and it happened? Remember when we went here and we did this? Remember when you wrote this and it occurred? Dates and times and places. So to be given the gift of people sharing with me what I have done, what I have experienced in these 15 years and throughout my life, has given me just such a lift, and I am grateful. But today, this is the message, just to share the truth of who I am in a grounded way. As a Piscean, I'm typically in the ether, channeling, receiving, and communicating. I am more comfortable in the Akasha than I am in the matrixical world. Being hybridized by Arcturian, Mantis, and Jinn extraterrestrials means that I am highly psychic, highly telepathic. I am highly knowledgeable without books and without teachers, naturally remembering knowledge and acquiring knowledge from the ether. And I am a master manifester, and I help people in high places, builder types, develop their worlds, their families, their businesses through abilities as a magi. There are plenty of video games, there are plenty of movies, plenty of human beings who have creatively channeled what these abilities look like. And whether it's art imitating life or life imitating art, the truth of our matrix through my experience and the experience of others like me is that it is a hybridization of both. So a man thinketh, and also to much who is given, much is required. So in the spirit of my archetype as a laughing Buddha, a modern American Buddha, I honor that there is an abundant portal through my soul that comes forward to offer safety, security through the mind, through the heart, through the body, and through the spirit. That is what abundance is to me, and it is one of my highest gifts. And I'm excited to share more and help activate through a divine touch with humility and a sense of responsibility and accountability to as many human beings as I can for our world's elevation that's taking place naturally, but as many people that can end their reality of suffering as possible. My soul will be pleased. And so if anyone had a question of what's your intention, Buddha Noah? Why do you do the work that you do? Why do you say you are who you say you are? Why do you project these things? Why do you wear what you wear? What gives you the right? What gives you the audacity? My experiences. It is not easy being partly extraterrestrial and partly human, and being aware of that. It is not easy telling people, listen, I'm an Arcturian, I'm a Mantis, I'm a Jinn, I'm a human. And we all are hybridized, but to be activated to remember and to have the giftings to use them every day and to stand on that, that is a journey. And I just invite people in. There is no fear here. There is no guilt or shame here. I come with open hands, open heart, open mind, open mouth, and just as a mouthpiece for divine beings who know and see more than I ever could as a human being. What else am I going to do outside of just share it? Just let it flow. And so thank you all for being here. I look forward to your feedback. I look forward to your community. And I look forward to embracing my assignment as a global teacher at this time. There are many wonderful teachers and masters on planet Earth. Few are hybridized extraterrestrials. Few are willing to share about their hybridization, and even fewer have tangible evidence of their hybridization and their experiences as such. And so, as things unfold naturally, as it is divine will, those evidences will continue to show themselves for the sake of other people's awakening, not my own. But that feels whole, that feels complete. And please, 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 if you take anything from this message, where we are in space and time in 2025 on planet Earth, what we need most is mental peace. So if I can offer you a touch of the mental peace that I have as an imperfect vessel. I have mental peace whether I do right or wrong. I have mental peace whether I feel great or small. I have mental peace whether I feel high or low, whether I'm moving forward or being still, whether I am loud or silent. I have peace. And that is the true nature of a hybrid. Peace is simply acceptance of all that is. If God is all, then I am all in God. And so I have peace today. I had peace yesterday, and I will have peace tomorrow. I encourage you all, have peace. Have peace. Have peace. Have a piece of peace, my friends. And I look forward to hearing what your piece of peace looks and feels like for you. Aloha, mahalo, and Selah. Be blessed. Until next time.